I hate to break it to you, but we've all been lied to about gardening. If you grew up gardening like me, you were probably taught that you need to spend money on fertilizer, amendments, that if you really want a good garden, you need to do soil tests, and basically add in any nutrients your soil is lacking according to those tests. Now that's a convenient thing companies would have you believe so that you are dependent on their products. But I'm here to tell you right now, if you follow these 5 gardening principles, you will never need to buy fertilizer. Even if you're starting with really bad soil, your plants will be able to get all the nutrients they need through the microbes in the ground. But to help them do that, we need to stop using fertilizer. Using these principles is how I turn dense clay soil like this into crumbly, dark, nutrient-rich soil like this. Principle number 1. Avoid soil disturbance. This means mechanical or chemical disturbance, anything that's going to disrupt the microbiome of the soil. That means stop rototilling your garden and stop spraying pesticides. Both tilling and pesticides destroy microbes in the soil, and it's those microbes that plants are supposed to get their nutrients from. That's why fertilizer companies always recommend you till your soil, because they know it makes you more dependent on fertilizer. If you want to be independent from these companies, you got to stop doing things in the way that they recommend. Now, you still got to get your seeds under the soil, so a little digging just to plant your seeds is totally fine. Principle number 2 is keep your soil covered. Near your house, there's probably a barren field that they've scraped everything off of that's just become overgrown with weeds. This is what nature does to bare soil because nature is trying to cover it. The sun has a sterilizing effect on soil. Those weeds are there as a cover crop, trying to slowly improve the soil so other things like grasses can eventually grow. You need to keep soil covered for nutrients to cycle. This can either be by living plants or by a thick layer of mulch, whether that's straw, hay, animal bedding, wood chips, grass clippings, or the remains of crops from the last season. In both instances, having that soil covered helps retain moisture, nutrients, organic matter, and helps microbes proliferate. These things combined cycle nutrients. So if you want soil that produces all the nutrients your garden needs, you got to keep it covered. Principle number 3 is diversity. There are very few places in nature you actually find monocultures. Even a lush grassland that looks like it's all the same species is full of diversity and full of dormant plants you're not seeing at that moment. Having a diversity of plants growing together is necessary for building soil. Planting diverse cover crop mixes around your food crops is a great way to make this happen. You want as many living plants with living roots in the ground as possible. This goes right into principle 4, always have living roots in the soil. These roots create different kinds of microbe foods called exudates that feed microbes that provide the nutrients that the plants need. And these exudates will change depending on the nutrients that the plant is lacking to attract the right microbes that provide that nutrient to that plant. These exudates are carbon-based. They're organic matter. So the longer you have living roots in the soil, the more organic matter you're putting into the soil. Those microbes use the organic matter to transform the soil. This process is called aggregation. This is how plants and microbes will take heavy clay soil that doesn't drain well and turn it into light, fluffy, chocolate cake-looking soil that soaks up water like a sponge. The most important factor for making that happen is living roots in the soil as long as possible. Principle 5 is integrate animals. This can be as simple as insects or earthworms, or as complex as grazing down your cover crops using animals like cow or sheep or chickens. In my instance, I cut down my cover crops, feed them to my rabbits, then I take the rabbit manure and spread it back on the garden. This simulates grazing and adds a bunch of microbial diversity to the garden, and many plants are stimulated to grow bigger root systems with that grazing effect. Bigger root systems means more soil building and nutrient cycling. Growing lots of flowers to attract pollinators, and keeping the soil covered with decomposing mulch helps attract lots of earthworms. So those are a couple ways you can help that integration. Do all this and you'll be practicing what's called regenerative gardening, which captures carbon in the atmosphere and puts it in the soil as organic matter and creates all the nutrients your plants need. We're going to do a deep dive of this topic with my Patreon community and show you all the ways I've integrated this in my own backyard. You'll be able to pick my brain about this in real time during the duration of the class, all while I'm physically working in my garden. This class will be held Wednesday, September 11th, and the price is really dirt cheap. So I hope I'll see you there. Sign up using the link in my bio.